Do you ever watch a movie thinking, yeah, I can totally turn my brain off for a minute, and then spiral into a manic quest to find the missing piece of a story that doesn't exist? No? Just me? Okay. In case you couldn't already tell, I'm that special brand of person that can't watch movies like a normal person. I can't turn my brain off and just enjoy the show. No, that would be too easy. Instead, I like to take out my handy-dandy notebook and analyze the movie from a writer's perspective. Over the years, I've gotten pretty good at picking out the theme of the movie. At least I thought I was good until I met my ultimate enemy, Frozen 2. Man, what a movie. Before I start smack-talking it, I want to say a couple things. First things first, in case you haven't noticed already, this video is going to be more in the podcast format. This is because I have had radial tunnel syndrome for 4 months straight. So yeah, you're not getting a lot of editing from me. Also, I thoroughly enjoyed the first movie, and the second was no different. I loved many of the songs, the color schemes, the lighting, the animation, the costuming, you get the idea. Lots of stimulation and pretty colors for my simple little pea brain. It was a fun ride from start to finish. However, the more thought I put into the film, the more questions I had and the fewer answers that I got. Before I knew it, I'd spent over a dozen hours rewatching the dang thing and just as many hours thinking about it. And I wanted answers. I needed answers. What the heck is the theme of this movie? So, I've already mentioned the word theme a couple times, but what does that really mean? Unlike what your high school English teacher taught you, capital T theme is not a subject like love or grief or power. Theme is the big question and answer that the story explores. More on that soon. In a well-written story, every main conflict is centered around this question. Each character learns, or refuses to learn, a lesson based on the theme. This helps give the story a sort of like backbone to make it cohesive. Go in too many different directions and the story becomes directionless. In other words, without theme, it doesn't have a strong message or moral. Moana is a really great example of cohesive theme. The big question the story asks is, what defines who you are? Or as Grammatala puts it, who are you meant to become? The characters talk about this constantly, and each character has a different answer or ideology to this question. All of Moana's antagonists believe that who they are is defined by outside sources, usually because they got hurt earlier in life. Even Moana falls into this trap to a certain extent. Here's some of the characters' beliefs. And if you think that I'm going to be able to get away with playing clips, no you will not, because the rat will drag me out into the street and murder me in public if I play clips. So, yeah, you're just gonna get more of my lovely, lovely voice. Moana's ideology is, the ocean chose me for a reason. Moana's ideology as a voyager is dependent on the ocean's approval. At first, she mistakes the call already inside her for the ocean's call. For the dad's ideology, you must find happiness right where you are. Because of a traumatic accident involving seafaring, Moana's dad lets past experiences define what he and his people can and cannot do. For the mom, sometimes who we want to be is just not meant to be. Moana's mom follows the lead of her husband here, but she is sympathetic to Moana. For Maui, without my hook, I am nothing. He is Maui because the gods made him so. Te Kā believes, without my heart, I am a monster. Or in other words, without my heart of creation, I can only destroy. Here's my favorite one, I'd rather be shiny. Tamatoa embraces the fact that others only look at his outside appearance. Strangely, this is kind of a positive spin on the anti-theme, or the opposing worldview of the story's moral. My man is out here living his best life as far as I can tell. He makes a good argument at the very least. Grammatala is an interesting one. She's the only person, other than the ocean, that actually encourages Moana to go on this journey, so she's one of the only characters that's not an antagonist. Her ideology is, that voice inside is who you are. This is the closest thing to the, quote, right ideology we have at first. However, she may have also enabled Moana to believe that the ocean created her identity. Grammatala later corrects her behavior to support whatever Moana chooses. She says, I never should have put so much on your shoulders. If you want to go home, I'll be with you. One cool thing about the characters' ideologies here is that they can be summed up in one phrase. Some characters state this directly, like Maui, others show it more through their actions. Because the story is allowed to ask questions and explore them, the characters realize the truth. When Moana sings, the call isn't out there at all, it's inside me, we learn that only what's inside you can define who you truly are. That is the theme of Moana. Okay, so you know how Moana had a nice, clear, easy theme? Well, Frozen 2 is the opposite. I lost my mind trying to figure out the theme. Frozen 2 has deleted all of my sanity. I spent dozens of hours trying to find one cohesive answer and never found it. You wanna know why? You wanna know why? It's because there's 3 of them, I think. Each main character seems to learn a different lesson, each of which barely connect. It's like the story had a bunch of different threads it was trying to force together, but it was all warp and no weft, if you know what I mean. It's just like a bunch of parallel strings stuck together. So here's the deal. To attempt to piece together my broken mind, I'm gonna do the same thing I did with Moana. I'll also go into greater detail about their individual character journeys, what they learned, and what the central conflicts are. For context, the plot goal for Frozen 2 is find the truth about the past, which doesn't encapsulate a good portion of what the characters struggle with, but I'll get to that soon. Normally, stories have one central conflict, like we've discussed. However, I found 3 of them. 1. Change versus constant. 2. Knowledge versus ignorance. 3. Isolation versus togetherness. Alright, for those of you who are currently listening to the video in the background, I'm going to start referencing a lot of things non-verbally from now on, so you might want to keep an eye on this screen if you start getting confused. I'm using charts now. This is what this movie has done to me. First up is Anna. We're going to start with the change versus constant conflict. Some things never change. Even as she sings this, everything around her changes. At the same time, she doesn't want her current relationship with Elsa to change. Elsa starts to shut her out again and pursues reckless isolationism. This worries Anna, and she frequently leaves Kristoff to go worry about Elsa. Not that that's necessarily a bad priority. And then, knowledge versus ignorance. She recognizes that they need to find the truth about the past to save their kingdom, and does what needs to be done to pursue truth. Not much changes here. Anna's lessons at the end of the story. By her lowest point, everything has changed, and she is completely alone. She doesn't know anymore what is true. The answer she comes to is, when it's clear that everything will never be the same again, I'll make the choice to hear that voice and do the next right thing. So she went from prioritizing constants, togetherness, and knowledge to recognizing and facing the change and isolation present in the world. She still values knowledge by the end of the story. Elsa blatantly breaks her promises with Anna to do this together, at least in my opinion. She both figuratively and literally pushes others away for most of the story. She feels like no one else can journey with her, that it's too dangerous for everyone else to get where she's going, which, by the way, the story proves her right on that, despite the first movie treating that like it's a bad mentality. Anna would not have made it through that giant ocean expanse, Anna wouldn't have contributed anything to the show yourself scene, and certainly wouldn't have stopped the flood, although, of course, Anna did cause the flood. The only time Anna's ideology really gets proven correct is when Elsa goes too far and freezes. But Elsa kinda also needed to go too far as well in order to find the truth. Like, would she have seen or heard the truth on that big ledge? Maybe, maybe not. Jury's still out on that one. In the end, the two sisters split up and govern their own separate areas. They still visit each other, but I guess Anna really did need to learn how to do things on her own again. The characters seem like they're happy now, but it kinda just feels like they just undid the whole first movie. In some ways, the characters have regressed from the first movie. This whole theming section is a mess. I can't freeze this moment, but I can seize this day. This kind of conflict doesn't last too long for her. At first, she's terrified of destroying what's already in her life, but her desire for change and growth wins out pretty quickly. How do I follow you into the unknown? As previously mentioned, Elsa desperately wants to know the truth of the past, as well as the truth about herself. For her, the next right thing is knowing where she belongs in this world. In the midpoint, the boat scene, there's a lot of conflict where she learns how her parents died. They gave their lives for answers to the very questions Elsa is asking. Elsa briefly blames it on herself, contributing more to the isolation thing, and it is a slight turn away from the pursuit of truth. But as we all know, this doesn't stop her for long, and she pushes Anna and Olaf away again. Elsa's lessons. The story tries to tell us that Elsa has embraced togetherness by the end. She insists to Anna that they did this together, despite everything I just mentioned. She does say a bridge has two sides though, which is a fairly reasonable explanation. The two sisters were not physically together, but they did kind of indirectly help each other. Truth and change stay the same for her. Here's a few extra notes for Elsa's section. The truth about the past. Elsa's grandfather feared that magic would upset his power balance and chose violence instead of peace and love. In other words, he, the anti-theme, was on the side of constant ignorance and isolation. The truth about herself. A lot of the stuff she learns from Haugen are stuff that we either kinda already knew or are just straight up confusing, like, you are the one you've been waiting for all of your life. What the heck does that even mean? Apparently it means she's the fifth spirit, which I saw coming from a mile away given that she's a human that uses elemental magic, but we don't get an official confirmation until like the very end. So, my problem with the reveal is that I didn't realize that there was just one spirit of each element, so when Elsa talks to Honeymaren by the fire, I was immediately like, okay, so she's the fifth spirit. But who's the other one? I think I thought Ahtohallan was the other fifth spirit and was also a physical person, so that was kind of confusing. If I had to sum Elsa's lesson up in one sentence, it'd be, a bridge has two sides? We'll go with that. I think a better guess is maybe, togetherness requires two people to bridge the gap between two sides, or something. You know, with all the screen time spent on Elsa, there's not really a lot about her arc that I really got. Okay, on to Olaf now. This will all make sense when I am older. Olaf believes at first that older people know everything. Seeking knowledge is kind of a big deal from him, but not much really comes of it. He learns that adults don't know everything, and neither does he. He still has lots of questions, but he seems to have made peace with that. Olaf recognizes that growing up means adapting. He also asks a lot of questions about change. He eventually learns that the one thing that's constant is love. He just likes being with his family. He gets genuinely angry when Elsa pushes him away, but that's more or less the end of discussion for him. As for Olaf's lesson, the only thing that really changes for Olaf by the end is that he makes peace with being ignorant. And now on to Kristoff, my baby boy that didn't get any useful screen time. The future is calling. He starts the story trying desperately to propose to Anna, but gets nervous and keeps bungling it up. He worries that he and Anna might be growing apart and starts to question if proposing is really what Anna needs right now, not a question of how, but of whether. He learns that he just needs to be there for her. By the end, he's just asking Anna, "I'm here, what do you need?" Kristoff is ready for change. Everything from the former section applies here too. Head empty. No thoughts on this section. He searches for a way to connect with Anna, I guess? They really did my boy dirty here. They just forgot about him for like half the movie, so his arc didn't really land as well as it could. So, what did I learn from all that? Not much. Here's an interesting thing, though. Here's a graph of the character alignments at the beginning of the story. In the isolation versus togetherness conflict, Elsa opposes everyone else, so this is Elsa's main conflict. In change versus constant, Anna opposes everyone else, so that's Anna's central conflict. And in knowledge versus ignorance, everyone is in agreement. Well, except for Kristoff, he's off chasing butterflies or something. Olaf's biggest conflict is knowledge versus ignorance, and I think Kristoff's is isolation versus togetherness, but it's hard to tell because his struggles were the least cohesive. Considering the final product we got, he probably should have just been left with the Arendellians, honestly. By the end, pretty much everyone ends up somewhere in the middle of everything. Some of their opinions or sides don't change, but they at least learn to acknowledge the other side. And this is the best I got in terms of making sense of this blessed mess. This is the part where I pretend I have answers. Like, I half thought I'd be partway through writing this and just have an aha moment or suddenly gain a moment of clarity while recording, but nope! Here's my best guess for the theme of Frozen 2. When change destroys your knowledge of the future, all you can do is the next right thing. I don't think this really encapsulates Elsa's side of the story, but at least it fits Anna's and mostly fits Olaf's and Kristoff's arc. My brain hurts after this. If anyone does know a cohesive thematic statement for Frozen 2, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but the very fact that I had to pick this friggin' movie apart line by line to find answers is exactly why I have a problem with it. In an ideal story, the writers pick one major conflict to focus on, and if the plot allows, other conflicts are explored with much less focus. This was obviously not done here. The thing that I find most frustrating about all of this is that Frozen 2 actually had a cohesive plot at one point. When I was first writing this essay, I thought it was just like time constraints that turned this movie into a mess, and then I found all the deleted scenes. It seems like in the original storyboards, Frozen 2 was going to be about the struggle of assimilating into a dominant culture versus connecting or reconnecting to your ancestral culture. In this version, anything to do with North Ultra, including their language, was forbidden in Arendelle. It was meant to be this sort of fictionalized representation of the real-life Sami culture and their forced assimilation into the Norwegian culture. On the screen are a couple videos you can watch if you're interested in learning more about this. One of the first deleted scenes shows Anna and Elsa discovering a secret room in the castle that belonged to their mother. The room is filled with banned Northuldren texts. It seems like most of the plot would be Anna and Elsa figuring out their family's connection to Northuldren culture and why their mother was forced to assimilate as an Arendelian. It would end with them discovering their grandfather's prejudice against Northuldra and his attempts to forcefully assimilate and control the Northuldren society. Even Kristoff has a stronger arc in the deleted scenes. In the music video Get This Right, it appears that Kristoff feels the need to abandon his own Northuldren heritage in order to marry the Princess of Arendelle, Anna. By the end, he learns that he doesn't need to change anything about the way he dresses or where he comes from. They're going to make it work either way. As a side note though, I feel the need to mention that Kristoff's Northuldren heritage, as far as I remember, is only subtextual. It's mostly in the way he dresses, as it matches the clothing style of the Northuldrens. So if the deleted scenes were so cohesive, why did it change? Well, as far as I can tell, it's the same reason the Disney movie Wish turned out the way it did. I actually remember when Wish was first announced, like in 2018. Back then it was just like a title and the idea that this was about like wishing on a star. This thing's been in development for years. They had the time to create a great story, if not for one eensy-weensy ever so crucial little detail.
I own you!
Disney, like all giant conglomerations, works in their best interest to do what they think makes the most money. This usually involves letting corporate executives stick their nose into the creative process and make suggestions of what they think will sell well. What they refuse to realize is that this actually disrupts the movie and turns it into bland, incoherent mush, just a complete nothing burger of a movie. Just like Frozen 2, I believe that Wish had a strong vision of what it was going to be before corporate stepped in and told them to do things differently. At least that's what I got from the art book. Like, I'm not even into romance, but the idea of a nonverbal Starboy love interest and a freaking villain couple? Are you kidding me? We were robbed! What? Where was I? Oh yeah, Frozen 2. Bet you didn't expect me to rope Moana and Wish into a video about Frozen 2. Whoops. Anyway, I'm really disappointed in the final movie we got because it could have had so much more potential. It could have been a movie I adored if it was simply given the time and trust to say what it was trying to say. Even though the theme of Frozen 2 was a mess, the one real thing I can take from this movie is this. Hey Disney, if you hire creatives to do a job, maybe, I don't know, trust them to do their job? You hired them! Yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna go take a nap now.
You wanna take a nap?
I'm taking a nap here. Good night.
It's not a Rangent Central production video unless I flub every line. Oh well. Ooh. Whoop. Ooh. Ah. Ow. What? Sure, we'll go with that. My ultimate enemy. Okay, back to regular scheduled programming. You know what I mean. And just so you know, the rat is going to drag me out into the street and, what? I write so many freaking long sentences, you guys. I own you. Okay. Record again, and we should be good. Should be good as cheese. Okay. And like, plus, if you wanted to sell toys, Disney,
You could have given Starboy multiple forms, so he has that cute little star thing, and then he's got his normal hot boy or Tumblr sexy boy form, and then you can sell dolls. You're totally forgetting that there's a huge market for teens. Teens that can spend their own money now, and they spend it on merch. You missed out, Disney.
I gotta take a nap right here. Bye.